Coming up now in your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, several wrestlers made comments about CM Punk over the weekend. We've also got news on an incident involving Matt Riddle at JFK Airport and what his ex-girlfriend had to say about it. Also, we've got details on the drama surrounding Santana and Ortiz and whether it is part of a storyline or real life. Over the weekend, several wrestlers and people from the wrestling industry have commented on CM Punk's departure from AEW, as well as the possibility of him returning to WWE somewhere down the line. So, names like Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, Eric Bischoff, Finn Balor, Drew McIntyre, Zelina Vega, and more have all issued quotes recently regarding CM Punk. But I wanted to start with some comments made by Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett mentioned this on his My World podcast. And of course, Jeff Jarrett works behind the scenes with Impact Wrestling in addition to his in-ring role. He helps do a lot of the live touring for AEW. And he suggested on his podcast recently that CM Punk could simply run his own shows, and that would be where Punk's wrestling career goes from here. So Jarrett said on his podcast, I don't know his headspace. I don't know any of that. But if I was a betting man, what's the downside to doing something completely on his own? Name the card his way. He doesn't want to be grinding every week, I don't think. Do four shows a year. One on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, one in the Midwest and his hometown, and pick another one and see what happens. Jarrett also spoke about how he feels CM Punk would be successful in running his own wrestling shows. He said, in any form of sales, selling cars, selling houses, selling any product, business people ask themselves, how are you new? How are you different? How are you going to cut through the clutter? And how are you going to market and promote it well? I think Phil has the ability to check all those boxes. It can be a different type of show. And this is something that we've heard a few others have suggested, this idea that CM Punk could run his own indie shows, and that is fitting with the punk rock ethos of do it yourself. Or perhaps Punk could partner with some independent promotions, say Chicago's Warrior Wrestling. We've also heard that Impact Wrestling has said to media outlets that they would be very interested in working with CM Punk, and that Impact and CM Punk did have some productive conversations when Punk visited an Impact Wrestling TV taping in Chicago this summer. One former wrestler who is definitely not on CM Punk's side is Kevin Nash. Nash has been blasting Punk on his Click This podcast as of late. He was recently asked if he feels there's much of an upside to WWE bringing in CM Punk, and Nash responded by comparing Punk to the Ultimate Warrior. He said he's already put himself on the mantle right next to the Ultimate Warrior. Go shake the ropes, buddy. You're punching Luke Perry's son. Your lucky old man Spelling ain't around, he'd have you murdered. What's the upside? Get the F out of here. There's no upside. And he continued to talk about Punk's backstage stories, taking away attention from AEW's accomplishments with All In at Wembley Stadium. So Nash continued to say, can we say something first that hasn't been addressed? How about a round of applause for AEW and Tony Khan for putting 80,000 seats in Wembley? For the crew that went out there, including Punk and Joe, went out there and had a hell of a show top to bottom. My biggest thing is, instead of that being a monumental moment for the company, I mean, what comes out on Monday is the CM Punk story. Like, all that shit happened that night and all the work that was put into it, and no one is talking about the card. Then you ask me if they should bring Punk in? Oh yeah, that's exactly what I want, to put 90,000 people in the SoCal Arena over 2 nights at WrestleMania, and then come Monday morning, have the talk be about some cocksucker who's probably got one of the 7 worst bodies ever to hold the belt, if not the worst body ever to hold the belt. And I don't give an F if you're straight edge or whatever the F you are. There's some natural guys in this world that actually have some effing muscle. So I think the Coles Notes version of that is Nash is not a fan of CM Punk and does not want WWE to bring him in. Eric Bischoff also commented on CM Punk recently. He mentioned on his podcast that he thinks Punk returning to WWE could be both good for Punk and the company. Here's what he had to say. Bischoff said, if Phil Brooks is the type of man that, first of all, recognizes and realizes that he's at least 50% responsible for it, if not more, the way he's handled himself and conducted himself, it could be really good. It could be really good for WWE. It could be great for him if he's willing to do that. If he's not, then he's just going to fade away and be a cult wrestling star, and nobody will remember him 10 years from now. Numerous other members of the WWE roster have commented on Punk potentially returning to the company. One of those is Finn Balor. Finn Balor was asked recently, while on the Ringer Wrestling show, if he'd be willing to wrestle CM Punk if Punk did return to the company. Balor gave a very tactful response. He said, I'd be interested in wrestling a broomstick if someone is going to pay me money. Money talks. Pretty similarly, Drew McIntyre was asked about Punk possibly returning to the company while he was in India for Superstar Spectacle. McIntyre responded, I don't make those decisions. I watch what I say in interviews, but he's certainly controversial and he gets people talking. I'll leave it at that. Zelina Vega was the focus of a few headlines recently after she tweeted out an image of a red X that many people took to be a comment about CM Punk. However, she later clarified that it had to do with there being a big red X on Dominic's face on this jacket and actually had nothing to do with CM Punk. However, she would continue to be very supportive of the idea of Punk returning to the company. She said, I wish him the best. Would it be great to see him again? Absolutely. I don't know much about his situation with AEW, but I have always had a fantastic relationship with CM Punk. You hear all these things about him. I am so big on not listening to other people's experiences, the dirt sheets, all that crap. He's always been a fantastic person. There's layers to people. And when people are just so hung up on the outer layers of what a person can be, you get stuck there. And if you want to stay there, that's great. But when you get to know the core of a person, that's where I like to hang out. To me, Punk's been nothing but great. So will the X be meaning putting an X on Dominic's face and CM Punk? It absolutely can be, because I'm a big supporter of him, and he's always been there for me. WWE's Matt Riddle had an eventful weekend. On Sunday, he posted to Instagram claiming that a Port Authority police officer sexually assaulted him at JFK International Airport. Here is what Riddle posted in a now deleted Instagram post. He wrote, nothing like being sexually assaulted by an officer and harassed at the JFK airport. No means no, and just because I'm nice doesn't mean yes, asshole. Don't know their Twitter or Instagram handles, but I took pictures. Normally I'm like whatever, but today was really weird and uncomfortable, and they made a point to make me feel small and useless. Definitely one of the most uncomfortable travel days I've ever had. Thanks, NYC. You're so progressive and accepting. TMZ is reporting that Riddle's comments have caused an internal investigation within the Port Authority Police Department. TMZ is also reporting that law enforcement sources said that the officers got a call for a disorderly person who was deplaning, and also said that the person was heavily intoxicated. This led to Matt Riddle's ex-girlfriend posting to social media about the incident. She wrote, "You are not the victim, Matt Riddle. No means no." And here are some of her comments.
Can we all just take a minute? I just woke up from my little Sunday afternoon nap, so don't mind this. But I wake up to all this Matt Riddle news story. One of he's intoxicated at an airport. Well, there goes sobriety. That's one. Two, a man who has, not only by myself, been accused of sexual abuse is now crying sexual assault? Well, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? Where's your proof, Matt? Prove it. Prove you've been sexually assaulted. Because honestly, that's what everyone wants us victims of you to do.
Both WWE and the Port Authority have launched internal investigations into the incident, and we will report back with news as it comes out. Santana and Ortiz made some headlines this weekend. A video featuring Santana aired on AEW Rampage on Friday night that basically stated Santana is going solo. He's about to embark on a singles career. Now, this follows months of rumors that there had been a falling out between the two sides. Conan actually spoke with Nick Houseman last month and spoke about trying to mend the fences between the two former tag team members. Conan said, I definitely talked to both of them to try to make them mend fences. Ortiz was definitely down to talk. Santana is kind of like me when I was young. He's kind of a hothead. And so he was really adamant that Ortiz didn't kind of stand by him when he thought he should have. And that's a lot of bad feelings. I'm like, bro, Ortiz is cool. He's not a bad guy. He's kind of a go with the flow type of guy, whereas Santana is very like, they're not doing nothing with us. They need to do something with us. And Ortiz says, yeah, just chill. So I think that was kind of the crux of their problem. I do believe that they'll talk, and there's a good chance they'll put them together. But Santana is of the mindset, and I agree with him 100%, where a lot of people are in AEW. It's like, bro, even though you're paying me, my stock is never going to go up if you don't use me. And you only have a small window of opportunity, as you know. So from what Santana told me, not getting too much into details, his whole thing was like, I'm going to talk with Tony. And if they're not going to do anything with me, then I have a decision to make. You know what I'm saying? But we're talking about half the roster feels that way. So then over the weekend, Ortiz posts to social media in response to Santana's video, where it's revealed that Santana is going solo. Ortiz wrote, what a way to find out years of having your back meant nothing. Good luck without your crutch. Just remember it helped you walk for the last 14 plus years. Hope your legs are good. Thank you for being honest for once, but you couldn't say it to my face. You know you still can, right? Santana then wrote back, wow. First thing you said to me in 14 months. No text, no call. No, I hope your recovery has gone well. But of course paint me to be the bad guy like you've always done. Guess you forgot about our last conversation about this. Either way, I'm happy, I hope, and pray the same for you. So the real question now is what happened over the weekend with these social media exchanges? Is this storyline? Is this real life spilling out into the on-screen wrestling product? We'll just have to wait and see. Nick Houseman did post to social media stating that he has heard that the interactions between these two are genuine and not part of any storyline. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't storyline, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Santana and Ortiz over the coming days and weeks. And WWE presents Raw tonight from the Scope Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. According to Wrestle Tickets, just over 7,000 tickets have been distributed to the show. We got one match and two segments booked for the show. Cody Rhodes is going to return to Raw tonight. That is advertised for the show. There will also be a celebration for Gunther becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. His single reign with the belt has now surpassed the Honky Tonk Man's, so there will be a celebration for him tonight. And the only match announced for the show will be for the World Women's Championship, as Judgment Day's Rhea Ripley puts the title on the line against Raquel Rodriguez, and Dominic Mysterio has been banned from ringside. And with that, you're completely up to date with what's going on in the world of wrestling. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.